scan system. Ang hirap tandaan, no? So let's break it down. Precinct count, kasi ang makina natin is at the level of the clustered precinct. Doon tayo nagbibilang ng ating mga boto. And diretso po natin yan tinanatransmit. So, in essence po, no? Tinatanggal na po natin ang human intervention sa counting, sa transmission, sa canvassing, and to a certain extent, the proclamation. So that's precinct count. Optical scan. Bakit yan tawag na optical scan? Kasi bawat subo natin ng balota, our machine takes a digital image or a capture, parang nililitratuhan niya both sides of the ballot simultaneously. No? At ito'y nare-record sa ating makina. So let's talk about auditability. Meron tayong mga balota na manually fill up ng ating mga botante nasa loob ng ballot box. Okay? We have the images that are stored in the machine. We have the 30 copies of the election returns that our PICO's machine generates. Aside from that, we have the audit trail. Ano itong audit trail na to? All of our actions using this machine is actually recorded. It identifies who did which action. It identifies what time that action was committed. So basically, we have all of these trails to make sure that everything is transparent. Is everybody following me at this point? I know I could get a bit technical sometimes. Nah. Anyway, let me introduce to you the components that make up our system. Unang-una dyan, when we enter the precinct, ang mapapansin natin, may malaking bagay sa harap natin, no? Ano ba tawag dyan? Washing machine? ATM? No, it's not an automated teller machine. Wala pong pera ang ating makina. This is what we call, ulitin natin, PICOS, or as more easily that can describe it, ACM, or automated counting machine. Anyway, okay, the first thing to notice actually is that we have a big contraption in front, and let me describe that to you. This is the ballot box. It is just a demo ballot box for the 2010 national local elections. The final ballot box that we will be using would be translucent. Bakit translucent yan? Unang-unang kailangan natin makita ang anino ng balota na uhulog sa ballot box. No? Sunod, dapat hindi natin makita kung paano bumoto ang isang botante. It should not be transparent enough so that the votes of the voter would be visible. So in effect, it's translucent so that we still protect voter anonymity and vote secrecy. So that is the ballot box. And on top of that sits our machine. No? So let me describe now the components that make up the machine. Okay? This part over here is what we call the feeder. No? One thing about our machine is that the voters will be personally feeding their ballots. Let me minimize my voice a bit. Problema niyan, I drank first before presenting. Normally, it should be presenting before drinking.
You're Superman! Do it at the same time.
Anyway, the feeder is where the voters will be personally feeding their ballots. Okay, so the voters would stand in front of the machine, no? And then they feed the ballot in this direction, into the slot, into the feeder. And they can do that in any orientation, meaning pwede yan paharap, pwede yan palikod, pwede yan pabaliktad. Ang hindi po pwede, mga kaibigan, ang pagilid. No? Hindi rin yan pwedeng side view. This part over here is what we call the touch screen. So the touch screen is basically the screen that we touch. Aside from the obvious, the touch screen has other functionalities. First and foremost, it displays the messages that the system would have to be showing. For example, now, it says there, please insert security key for authentication. Okay? So basically, Diyan po lalabas ang mga mensahe ng sistema tulad ng congratulations, thank you for voting, maayong buntag, in Bisaya. So, anyway, those are still items that are to be configured yet. But anyway, another function of the system, no, is that it is basically the interface of our poll workers with the machine. Sino ba ang mga poll workers na yan? Ang tawag natin sa kanila, officially, BEI or Board of Election Inspectors. Sila ang ating mga guro. At sa totoo lang, sasabihin ko sa inyo to, ang laki ng tulong ng ating teknolohiya sa ating mga guro come election day. Anyway, dito po nila pinipindot ang mga kailangan nilang pindutin para mapagana ang ating makina. So yan ang touchscreen. This portion over here is what we call the thermal printer. The thermal printer generates all of the reports that our machine would have to generate. For example, initialization report. I will show that to you later during the actual demonstration. Another report is the election returns. No? Alam ba natin kung ano yung election returns? Malamang. Another report is of course the audit trail as well as the transmission reports. And of course, definitely, I will show how the system would be working in a bit. Okay, ang tawag dito, panyo. Kasi whenever I do this demonstration, I tend to be really exaggerated and medyo mainit.
We learned of that in Plaza Miranda.
Thank you very much for that embarrassing reminder. Okay, this is a thermal printer, and of course, since we're using a thermal printer, we will be using thermal papers. I know all of us here would have our hesitations and our doubts as regards to using thermal paper. Bakit? Ano ba ang mga resibo na nakukuha natin doon sa mga fast food? Doon sa letter M, walang libreng advertising. Letter J, no? So, thermal paper yun ang ginagamit. Ang ating sagot dyan, sa totoo lang pala, meron palang different levels of quality as regards to thermal papers. And for the 2010 national and local elections, the thermal paper that we'll be deploying is of a quality that is manufacturer guaranteed to last at least 5 years. To last at least 5 years. And of course, that should be under optimal conditions. And those conditions would be specified in what we call the general instructions that COMELEC will be promulgating. What is the general instructions? Ito ang parang Biblia ng ating mga teachers. Ito ang parang mga set of instructions that the teachers will be following come election day. Another component of the system, but I have to apologize, I was not able to bring. Kasi medyo hindi siya magaan. And medyo traffic. Anyway, ang tawag natin dyan, backup battery. The backup battery is there to guarantee, to run our machine constant use for at least 16 hours. 16 hours po. For the 2010 national and local elections, ang ating voting time is from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Ilang oras po yun? 11 hours. Since we'll be using a battery that will power the machine for at least 16 hours, kakayanin ba yun? Kulang sa interaction. Yes! Kakayanin yun. Pero kung hindi, of course, nandiyan pa rin ang ating contingency procedures, contingency batteries. Okay, let me now describe the ballot. Ito na po ang ating bagong pamamaraan ng pagboboto. But, it is still similar to the manual elections. Bakit? Kasi meron pa rin tayong mga balota. No? But as opposed to the previous ballot that we were using, no? Kung dati-rate, we fill out the names, first name, last name ng ating kandidato, a process